What's up, traders? Matt from the Trade Brigade here doing a technical analysis on ticker symbol PBTS for Power Best Global Investments. On the left-hand side, we're looking at the daily time frame, and on the right-hand side, the 30-minute intraday time frame. Now, these guys did pop for some reason, probably had some catalyst going on, but what I always point out when we have these situations is that if volume down below here even starts to dry up a little bit, meaning if you start to see volume bars do this very dramatically and then taper back off to literally nothing like what we have back here, I would be very skeptical of holding this to the long side. For this to have any follow through, any more movement to the upside, momentum needs to remain strong, and volume is our pretty much guiding light for that to be an indicator, right? You need to see volume remain high and a lot of interest in this name. So that being said, let's map out obvious areas of support and resistance from this daily time frame. Not a whole lot going on with this spike in here. I'd probably argue you don't want to cherry pick the top there. I'd probably pick this cluster of wicks in here around 276 as an area of resistance. Certainly getting a little bit of rejection here off the daily 200 SMA before even getting into it, as noted by today's upper wick. So, right off the bat, not the greatest close, but we'll talk more about the 30-minute in a second. Underneath us, what do we have for support? I'm looking at this area potentially in here from the daily perspective. I'm kind of splitting the difference between these lows and these two more recent ones in here that were respected relatively well. And then underneath that, what do we have? Certainly a rejection point from in here. You can see prior pivot as well as upper wicks in here. And then, of course, a floor has kind of established itself around 122. Let's now shift that attention over to the 30-minute, see if we got it right, if we can adjust anything. 192 certainly holding up as this sort of pullback lows in here, so I would use that as a valid support. And then to the upside, this is clearly jumping off the page as a pressure cooker top or resistance at 215. If we can break out over it, I would expect a revisit of today's high at 227, and then you're monitoring very closely for continuation into that daily 200 SMA, the green line on my chart here, at 235. If we can get up and over it, then it does open the door potentially up to that 276. But if that cannot happen, I would be very careful holding this one long here. Again, we discussed the volume needing to remain high. Otherwise, it's kind of game over here. Your main area of consolidation for health and just to gauge the strength, again, is in this zone. If it consolidates in there, goes sideways for a day, fine, right? That's not the end of the world, but we do want to see it at least maintain 50% of today's range. Generally, what we like to do is throw a Fibonacci on here, but I can already tell that, we'll be pretty close to the Fibonacci. If we do something like this, what you can see is, of course, the 50% is kind of being respected here. Pullback here respected it as well, and we didn't really get a candle close under the 61.8. I would keep a close eye on 190. Any closes underneath us underneath that does put into play the potential or higher likelihood of retracing 100% of the move, coming down into 170. Obviously, underneath that, we have a large gap to fill all the way to the high of Wednesday. And just pointing out that level, let's go ahead and do it from the daily perspective. That gap closes technically all the way at 131. That's not something I would want to be involved in. That, obviously, you're not going to try to short this, right? You don't short things that are under $5 generally for any sort of swing and or trade that would last longer than the day. But let's check in on this. Again, hard to borrow on Thinkorswim and no options listed. So there really is no short play here. Just avoid it going long if you start to take out that 190 area, which we just discussed. So all things considered, you have a couple of things to watch out for. 215 will be the key break to the upside, and then really focusing the attention on the 200 SMA. If you enjoyed today's video or learned anything new, let me know in the comments section or by simply giving the video a thumbs up. Don't forget our main channel is linked in the description, and all of that being said, we wish you a green trading week.